taught very much to warn people about and say, you know, be self-sufficient, be prudent, you know, don't be wasteful. Otherwise, you might find yourself in a fix. You may be indebted to somebody and in servitude. And of course, a lot of people don't listen. You know, you look at the first 60 years history in this country, and it's not pretty. We ended up having a very large war over it, and I won't get into the politics of that because there's a lot of diverging views. The bottom line, though, is that if you, I'm going to go back to, let's see here. It's a little bit slow here. Bear with me for one moment here. I just want to find the right quotation There's a lot of information, and it's difficult to sit through at times. But, basically, the legislation that was repealed, like I said, it was after the 1929 collapse. And the 1929 collapse itself did not automatically trigger the Great Depression. It was actually a couple years later before things got really bad. And like the present crisis, it was by design. The use of fiat money and fractional reserve banking creates cycles of boom and bust, boom and bust. And what they do is that they speculate, you know, on the cycle, and that can create bigger booms and bigger busts than what you might normally see if that cycle were simply left to run its natural course. So, like for example, the housing market. Okay, they kept lowering the interest rates, It got down to where it was like 4.0% on the interest rates to buy a home and get a mortgage. So everyone was like, wow, that's really cheap. I'm going to go out and buy me a house. And people were going out and buying dozens and even hundreds of homes just so they could turn around, mark it up a small fraction, turn around and sell it. And because the market was hot, they were buying and selling almost immediately and getting an immediate markup, and people were getting rich on real estate. And I'm sure you've seen the infomercials if you happen to work late at night or get up early in the morning, and this guy is trying to sell to you his method for getting rich quick in real estate, etc., so forth. So what ended up happening is that you had this huge bubble in the housing market. People are buying, it's hot, the properties are going. And then suddenly, interest rates start going up because the Fed changed some of the regulations. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, you know, everybody talks about that. The regulations concerning those outfits were relaxed. They started lending to people that they weren't able to. We were all told they were too big to fail. Don't worry, go back to sleep. And then, of course, when they did raise the interest rates, kaplooey. So when that happened, this big housing market bubble popped. And again, like I said, you know, the bigger the boom, the bigger the bust. And this in turn led to the domino effect. And that domino effect caused the interbank lending organizations to get really spooked. Well, we're not even going to lend to our fellow bankers. We're going to hold on to what we've got. And again, they didn't have to. They made the decision to do that. So instead of resolving the crisis by just simply swallowing the bitter pill and saying, you know, we're holding a whole bunch of bad notes here, and we're just going to have to take the hit to our wallet. The only problem was is that this would have caused a lot of these institutions to collapse. They don't want to collapse. They wanted to stay in business and continue to make money, you know, to draw interest off of your labor, as I was speaking of. So they just kept on going. The problem was that they couldn't keep on going. They were stuck with all these bad mortgages. And these mortgages, like I was talking about fractional reserve banking, where I've got $100 and I loan out $10 to each of you, and then you pay me back, and then when it's all done, I've got an extra $10 in my pocket. And then I take that $110 and I loan out $11 to 10 people, and so on and so forth. The only problem was that, you know, that means that you have to constantly expand the money supply, and that's where we get inflation from. And inflation is just a fancy word for the devaluation of the greenbacks in your pocket. That's the reason why it takes more and more money to get something that, you know, has a relatively fixed price. And as an example, those of you that may have been at the Indy 1500 gun show this weekend, anyone that goes out and buys a firearm, that firearm doesn't change in value. You know, the supply, the demand, or, you know, they're even. What changes is how many Federal Reserve funny money notes it takes to buy that rifle, that handgun, that shotgun. So what ended up happening was that the bankers wouldn't lend to each other, and that made the crisis worse. And then Lehman Brothers, and you've seen it on the news. I won't reiterate what we already know. But this created, you know, this crisis where we have to bail it out. Now, because the entire world operates on this fiat money system, eventually it all goes back to what it's actually worth. In a free market system, even when you try to control it centrally, you look at the Russian economy. When the Soviet Union collapsed and the free market was allowed to reign, what was a ruble worth? Not much, just about zero. So you get some people that say, get your money out now while you can. For some people who have been investing in these schemes, if you're able to get out before the rush, think of it as a large theater. You've just got done watching a movie. Movie's over. What does everybody do? They stand up and they get ready to leave. Except there's only a couple of doors. So now you got to go all very slowly in line. But the guy that actually leaves, just as the credits are coming up, he actually gets out the door without having to walk slow. He gets out ahead of the crowd, and he doesn't have to wait. Well, when it comes to money, however, if you wait, then what you have becomes worth zilch. Whether, you know, again, by you know, loss of confidence and, you know, the dollar gets dropped as the reserve currency of the world, or hyperinflation, which achieves the same effect, it becomes worth zilch. There's only one solution, and gold bugs and those who have been selling silver and gold have been saying the same thing for decades. The only sure store of value is something that has intrinsic value. This is a Liberty dollar, 1 ounce of silver. And it's actually alloyed, so it's a little bit better than an ounce, but it contains 1 exact ounce of silver. And it'll say 0.999 fine, just like what you would get in a pawn shop or a coin store or a jeweler's shop. This is sold by the Liberty Dollar out of Evansville. It's an Indiana company. I highly recommend that you check them out at libertydollar.org. You can learn a lot about the money system in addition to the writings of G. Edward Griffin, which is linked from their website. There's a lot to teach about how money mechanics works. What's interesting is that the Liberty Dollar was given the blessing of the Federal Reserve banks as well as the United States Treasury. They said, this is perfectly legal. You can use this as a method of private, voluntary barter for any goods or services that you deem fit. Up until recently, it could be said, you know, with some degree of certainty,